21-22 are 34.83 lakh crores. This includes 5.54 lakh crores as capital expenditure, an increase of 34.5% over the BE figure of 2020-2021. The fiscal deficit in BE 21-22 is estimated to be 6.8% of the GDP. The gross borrowing from the market for the next year would be around 12 lakh crores. We plan to continue with our path of fiscal consolidation and intend to reach the fiscal deficit level below 4.5% of the GDP by 2025-2026, with a fairly steady decline over the period. We hope to achieve the consolidation by first increasing the buoyancy of tax revenue through improved compliance, and secondly, by increased receipts from monetization of assets, including public sector enterprises and land. The Contingency Fund of India is being proposed to be augmented. The Contingency Fund of India is being proposed to be augmented from 500 crores to 30,000 crores through finance bill. In accordance with the views of the 15th Finance Commission, we are allowing a normal ceiling of net borrowing for the states at 4% of GSDP for the year 21-22. A portion of the ceiling will be earmarked to be spent on incremental capital expenditure. Additional borrowing ceiling of 0.5% of the GSDP will also be provided subject to conditions. States will be expected to reach a fiscal deficit of 3% of GSDP by 2023-24 as recommended by the 15th Finance Commission. In the July 2019-20 budget, I introduced the Statement 27 on extra budgetary resources. It disclosed the borrowings of the government agencies that went towards funding Government of India schemes and whose repayment burden was on the government. In my 2020-21 budget, I enhanced the scope and coverage of that statement by including the loans provided by government to the FCI, the Food Corporation of India. Taking a step further in this direction, I propose to discontinue the NSSF loan to FCI for food subsidy, and accordingly, budget provisions have been made in RE 2020-21 and in the BE 2021-22. The extra budgetary resource details are at Annexure 6. We know that the FRBM Act mandates fiscal deficit of 3% of GDP to be achieved by 31st March 2020-2021. The effect of this year's unforeseen and unprecedented circumstances has necessitated the submission of a deviation statement under Sections 4 of Subclause 5 and Section 7, Subclause 3b of the FRBM Act, which I am laying on the table of the House as part of the FRBM documents. Towards achieving central government fiscal deficit along the broad path that I have already indicated, I will be introducing an amendment to the FRBM Act. Honorable Speaker, on the 9th of December 2020, the 15th Finance Commission submitted its final report covering the period 2021 to 2026 to the Rashtrapati Ji. The government has laid the Commission's report along with the explanatory memorandum in the Parliament, retaining the vertical shares of the states at 41%. We recognize our commitment to fiscal federalism and propose, therefore, to adhere to this recommendation. Jammu and Kashmir in the 14th Finance Commission was entitled to get devolution being a state. Now the funds of the UTs of Jammu Kashmir and Ladakh would be provided by the Centre. I have also provided, on the Commission's recommendation, 1,18,452 crores as revenue deficit grant to 17 states in 21-22, as against 74,340 crores to 14 states in 2020-21. Honorable Speaker, I would now move to Part B of my speech. Honorable Speaker, the world is facing a serious challenge of the pandemic and its aftershock. In these trying times, when many economies are struggling to revive, our people and our industry have exhibited remarkable resilience. As I mentioned already, post-pandemic, a new world order seems to be emerging, one in which Asia is poised to occupy a prominent position, and India will have a leading role therein. In this scenario, our tax system has to be transparent, efficient, and should promote investments and employment in our country. At the same time, it should put minimum burden on our taxpayers. I borrow the words of Thiruvalluvar, the saint. ஏற்றலும் ஈட்டலும் காத்தலும் காத்த வகுத்தலும் நல்ல வல்லதரசு. A king or a ruler is the one who creates and acquires wealth, protects and distributes it for common good. Tirukkural. Direct tax proposals. Keeping this in mind, the words of Tirukkural, our government introduced a series of reforms in the direct tax system for the benefit of our taxpayers and the economy. Few months prior to the pandemic, in order to attract investments, we slashed our corporate tax rate to make it among the lowest in the world. The dividend distribution tax too was abolished. The burden of taxation on small taxpayers was eased by increasing rebates. In 2020, the return filers saw a dramatic increase to 6.48 crores from 3.31 crores in 2014. In the direct tax administration, we had recently introduced the faceless assessment and faceless appeal. I now seek to take further steps to simplify the tax administration, ease compliance, and reduce litigation. Relief to senior citizens. I begin my direct tax proposals by offering my pranam to our senior citizens. Many of them, despite having foregone several basic necessities of their own, have strived to build our nation. Now in the 75th year of independence of our country, when we continue our endeavor with renewed vigor, we shall reduce compliance burden on our senior citizens who are 75 years of age and above. For senior citizens who only have pension and interest income, I propose exemption from filing their income tax returns. The paying bank will deduct the necessary tax on their income. Reduction in time for income tax proceedings. This is a very key announcement, if you are asking. Honorable Speaker, presently an assessment can be reopened up to 6 years and in serious tax fraud cases for up to 10 years. As a result, taxpayers have to remain under uncertainty for a very long time. I therefore propose to reduce this time limit for reopening of assessments to 3 years from the present 6 years. In serious tax evasion cases too, only where there is evidence of concealment of income of 50 lakh or more in a year. In serious tax evasion cases too, Only where there is evidence of concealment of income of 50 lakh or more in a year can the assessment be reopened up to 10 years. Even this reopening can be done only after the approval of the Principal Chief Commissioner, the highest level of Income Tax Department. Setting up the Dispute Resolution Committee. Honorable Speaker, it has been the resolve of this government to reduce litigation which mars the present taxation system. The government came out with the Direct Taxation Vivad Se Vishwas scheme to give taxpayers an opportunity to settle long-pending disputes and be relieved to further strain on their time and resources. The response from taxpayers has been the best ever, as over 110,000 taxpayers have already opted to settle tax disputes of over 85,000 crores under the scheme. To further reduce litigation for small taxpayers, I propose to constitute a dispute resolution committee for them, which will be faceless to ensure efficiency, transparency, and accountability. Anyone with a taxable income up to 50 lakh and disputed income up to 10 lakh shall be eligible to approach the committee. Faceless IT-AT. For ease of compliance and to reduce discretion, we are committed to make the taxation processes faceless. The government has already introduced faceless assessment and appeal this year. The next level of income tax appeal is the Income Tax Appellate Tribunal. I now propose to make this tribunal faceless. We shall establish a national faceless Income Tax Appellate Tribunal Center. All communication between the tribunal and the appellant shall be electronic. Where personal hearing is needed, it shall be done through video conferencing. Relaxations to NRI. When non-resident Indians return to India, they have issues with respect to their accrued incomes in their foreign retirement accounts. This is usually due to mismatch in taxation period. They also face difficulties in getting credit for Indian taxes in foreign jurisdictions. I propose to notify rules for removing their hardship of double taxation. Exemption from audit. Currently, if your turnover exceeds 1 crore, you have to get your accounts audited. In February 2020 budget, I had increased the limit for tax audit to 5 crores for those who carry out 95% of their transactions digitally. To further incentivize digital transactions and to reduce compliance burden, I propose to increase this limit for tax audit for such persons from 5 crores to 10 crores. Relief for dividend. In the previous budget, I had abolished the dividend distribution tax in order to incentivize investment. Dividend was made taxable in the hands of shareholders. Now, in order to provide ease of compliance, I propose to make dividend payment to rate and InvIT exempt from TDS. Further, as the amount of dividend income cannot be estimated correctly by the shareholders for paying advance tax, I propose to provide that advance tax liability on dividend income shall arise only after the declaration or payment of dividend. Also, for the foreign portfolio investors, I propose to enable deduction of tax on dividend income at lower treaty rate. Attracting foreign investment into infrastructure sector. In the last budget, for attracting foreign investment in the infrastructure sector, we had granted 100% tax exemption, subject to certain conditions, to foreign sovereign wealth funds and pension funds on their income from investment in Indian infrastructure. We have noticed that few of such funds are facing difficulties in meeting some of the conditions. In order to ensure that a large number of funds invest in India, I propose to relax some of these conditions relating to prohibition on private funding, restriction on commercial activities, and direct investment in infrastructure in order to allow funding of infrastructure by issue of zero coupon bonds. I propose to make notified infrastructure debt funds eligible to raise funds by issuing tax efficient zero coupon bonds. Affordable housing. Affordable housing and rental housing. This government sees housing for all and affordable housing as priority areas. In July 2019 budget, I provided an additional deduction of interest amounting to 1.5 lakh for loan taken to purchase an affordable house. I propose to extend the eligibility of this condition by one more year to 31st March 2022. The additional deduction of 1.5 lakh shall therefore be available for loans taken up to 31st March 2022 for the purchase of affordable houses. Further, to keep up the supply of affordable houses, I propose that the affordable housing projects can avail a tax holiday for one more year till 31st March 2022. These are available now for projects also. We are committed to promote supply of affordable rental housing for migrant workers. For this, I propose to allow tax exemption for notified affordable rental housing projects. Tax incentives to IFSC. As I mentioned in Part A of the speech, the government is committed to making the International Financial Services Center in GIFT City a global financial hub. In addition to the tax incentives already provided, I propose to include, among others, tax holiday for capital gains for aircraft leasing companies, tax exemption for aircraft lease rentals paid to foreign lessors, tax incentive for relocating foreign funds in the IFSC, and to allow tax exemption to the investment division of foreign banks located in the IFSC. Pre-filling of returns. Honorable Speaker, in order to ease compliance for the taxpayer, details of salary income, tax payments, TDS, etc., already come pre-filled in income tax returns. To further ease filing of returns, details of capital gains from listed securities, dividend income, and interest from banks, post office, etc., will also be now pre-filled. Relief to small trusts. We hope to reduce compliance burden on small charitable trusts running educational institutions and hospitals. So far, there is a blanket exemption to such entities whose annual receipt does not exceed 1 crore of rupees. I now propose to increase this amount to 5 crores. Labor welfare. We have noticed that some employers deduct the contribution of employees toward provident funds, superannuation funds, and other social security funds, but do not deposit these contributions within the specified time. For these employees, this means a loss of interest or income. In cases where an employer later becomes financially unviable, non-deposit results in a permanent loss for the employees. In order to ensure that employees' contributions are deposited on time, I reiterate that the late deposit of employees' contribution by the employer will not be allowed as deduction to the employer. Incentives for startups. In order to incentivize startups in the country, I propose to extend the eligibility for claiming tax holiday for startups by one more year. till 31st March 2022. Further, in order to incentivize funding for the startups, I propose to extend the capital gains exemption for investment in startups by one more year till 31st March 2022. Sir, I now come to indirect tax proposals. GST. Before I come to my indirect tax proposals, I would like to appraise the House on GST. The GST is now 4 years old, and we have taken several measures to further simplify it. Some of the measures include nil return through SMS, quarterly return and monthly payment for small taxpayers, electronic invoice system, validated input tax statements, pre-filled editable GST return, and staggering of returns filing. The capacity of GST and system has also been enhanced. We have also deployed deep analytics and artificial intelligence to identify tax evaders and fake billers and launched special drives against them. The results speak for themselves. We have made record collections in the last few months. The GST Council has painstakingly thrashed out thorny issues. As chairperson to the Council, I want to assure this House that we shall take every possible measure to smoothen the GST further and to remove anomalies such as inverted duty structure. Custom duty rationalization. Our custom duty policy should have the twin objective of promoting domestic manufacturing and helping India get on to global value chain and export better. The thrust now has to be on easy access to raw materials and exports of value-added products. Towards this, last year, we started overhauling the customs duty structure, eliminating 80 outdated exemptions. I also thank everyone who responded overwhelmingly to a crowdsourcing call for suggestions on this revamp. I now propose to review more than 400 old exemptions this year. I repeat, I now propose to review more than 400 old exemptions this year. We will conduct this through extensive consultations, and from 1st October 2021, we will put in place a revised customs duty structure free of distortions. I also propose that any new customs duty exemptions, therefore, henceforth will have validity up to 31st March, following 2 years from the date of the issue. Electronic and mobile phone industry. Domestic electronic manufacturing has grown rapidly. We are now exporting items like mobiles and chargers. For greater domestic value addition, we are withdrawing a few exemptions on part of chargers and sub-parts of mobiles. Further, some parts of mobiles will move from nil rate to a moderate 2.5%. Iron and steel. MSMEs and other user industries have been severely hit by a recent sharp rise in iron and steel prices. Therefore, we are reducing customs duty uniformly to 7.5% on semis, flats, and long products of non-alloy, alloy, and stainless steels. To provide relief to metal recyclers, mostly MSMEs, I am exempting duty on steel scrap for a period up to 31st March 2022. Further, I am also revoking ADD and CVD on certain steel products. Also, to provide relief to copper recyclers, I am reducing duty on copper scrap from 5% to 2.5%. Textiles. The textile sector generates employment and contributes significantly to the economy. There is a need to rationalize duties on raw material inputs to man-made textiles. We are now bringing nylon chain on par with polyester and other man-made fibers. We are uniformly reducing the BCD rates on caprolactam, nylon chips, nylon fiber, and yarn to 5%. This will help the textile industry, MSMEs, and also overall exports. Chemicals. We have calibrated customs duty rates on chemicals to encourage domestic value addition and to remove inversions. Apart from other items, we are reducing customs duty on naphtha to 2.5% to correct inversion. Gold and silver presently attract a basic customs duty of 12.5%. Since the duty was raised from 10% in July 19, prices of precious metals have risen sharply. To bring it closer to previous levels, we are rationalizing customs duty on gold and silver. Renewable energy. In Part A, we have already acknowledged that solar energy has huge promise for India. To build up domestic capacity, we will notify a phased manufacturing plan for solar cells and solar panels. At present, to encourage domestic production, we are raising duty on solar inverters from 5% to 20% and on solar lanterns from 5% to 15%. Capital equipment and auto parts. There is immense potential in manufacturing heavy capital equipment domestically. We will comprehensively review the rate structure in due course. However, we are revising duty rates on certain items immediately. We propose to withdraw exemptions on tunnel boring machine. It will attract a customs duty of 7.5% and its parts a duty of 2.5%. We are raising customs duty on certain auto parts to 15% to bring them on par with general rate on auto parts. MSME products. We are proposing certain changes to benefit MSMEs. We are increasing duty from 10 to 15% on steel screws and plastic builder wares. On prawn feed, we increase it from 5 to 15%. We are rationalizing exemption on import of duty-free items as an incentive to exporters of garments, leather, and handicraft items. Almost all of these items are made domestically by our MSMEs. We are withdrawing exemption on imports of certain kinds of leathers as they are domestically produced in good quantity and quality, mostly by MSMEs. We are also raising customs duty on finished synthetic gemstones to encourage domestic processing. Agriculture products to benefit farmers. We are raising customs duty on cotton from nil to 10%, on raw silk and silk yarn from 10 to 15%. We are also withdrawing end-use based concession on denatured ethyl alcohol. Currently, rates are being uniformly calibrated to 15% on items like maize, bran, rice bran, oil cakes, and animal feed additives. There is an immediate need to improve agricultural infrastructure so that we produce more while also conserving and processing agricultural output efficiently. This will ensure enhanced remuneration for our farmers. To earmark resources for this purpose, I propose an agricultural infrastructure and development cess on a small number of items. However, while I am applying this cess, we have taken care not to put additional burden on consumers on most items. Rationalization of procedures and easing of compliance. For a judicious application, we propose certain changes in the provisioning related to ADD, anti-dumping duty, and CVD, countervailing duty levies. To complete customs investigation, we are prescribing definite timelines. In 2020, we rolled out the Turant Customs Initiative, which brought in faceless, paperless, and contactless customs measures. With effect from September 2020, we have implemented a new procedure for administration of rules of origin. This has helped in putting a check on misuse of FTAs. The specific details of direct and indirect tax changes proposed are listed in the annexure to my speech. Honorable Speaker, sir, with these words, I commend the budget to this august House. Thank you.
आइटम नंबर 1, माननीय मंत्री जी, आइटम नंबर 1।
Sorry, I don't have it with me. Sir, I wish to place on table the 15th Finance Commission report.
आइटम नंबर 3, माननीय मंत्री जी।
Sir, I wish to lay on the table the following statements under Section 3(1) of the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act 2003, the medium-term fiscal policy cum fiscal policy strategy statement and macroeconomic framework statement.
Item number 4.
So I wish to seek your permission to move for leave to introduce the Finance Bill 2021.
प्रश्न ये कि विधेयक को पुनर्स्थापित करने की अनुमति प्रदान की जाए। जो सदस्य इसके पक्ष में हाँ कहें, जो सदस्य इसके विरोध में ना कहें। मेरे विचार में निर्णय हाँ वालों के पक्ष में हुआ, हाँ वालों के पक्ष हुआ। माननीय मंत्री जी विधेयक को पुनर्स्थापित करें। श्री प्रहलाद जोशी जी।
With your permission, I rise to present the 18th report of Business Advisory Committee.
माननीय सदस्यगण, माननीय वित्त मंत्री जी के बजट भाषण की प्रतियां प्रकाशक फलक पर उपलब्ध है। सदस्य अपनी प्रति प्रकाशन फलक से प्राप्त कर सकते हैं। माननीय सदस्यगण, जैसा कि आपको समाचार 2 के माध्यम से पहले सूचित किया जा चुका है कि बजट की प्रतियां आपको मेंबर्स पोर्टल के माध्यम से उपलब्ध कराई जा रही है। सभा की कार्रवाई मंगलवार दिनांक 2 फरवरी 2021 को दोपहर 4 बजे तक के लिए स्थगित की जाती है।